Guardians split the weekend series. We'll get into everything that went on in a bit of an odd weekend on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Guardians. I'm your host, Jeff Ellis. Work with the shadows here. I feel like I'm not getting a good shadow scene. First off, thank you for making Locked On your first listen today and every day, wherever you get podcasts. And as for myself, as we approach episode 800 here of Locked On Guardians, before this, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scout and 24/7. That is my co-host, Nacho, 15-year-old cat. Apparently, I am not allowed to talk in this basement without his approval. As for this weekend, well, let's just talk about today's show. There was recently a lot of minor league releases. So as long-time listeners know, I like to talk about that. I like to give those guys, some air because they've, they struggled and they worked hard and it didn't work out. And there's some interesting players in that mix, so we definitely want to discuss them. There is a transaction in terms of the roster as well. And we're going to lead off, though, with these two games against the White Sox. Now, if you caught Friday's show, I'm going to continue to say we're doing pretty well on the predictive side. Some things we get right, some things we get very wrong. But I talked about they should win Friday and Saturday, but I was kind of worried because Cueto's the type of guy who can give them fits. Well, I wish I wasn't right, but that's true. So let's start with the Saturday game. I got myself in a little bit of trouble in the Saturday game because it kind of got annoying because I'm like, I did two tweets. Like, look at the whole profile of tweets. Because the first tweet was, I'm sitting here multitasking and I didn't get a good angle. So I was like, oh, Benson missed the cutoff, man. We're realizing that Naylor decided for some reason to deke the cutoff move instead. Decided to pretend like he was going to cut it off and chose not to. So then it drills Luke Maile, who, let's be honest, is like an average at best defender. He is not a plus defender back there. It's not a Hedges situation. And the run comes across. So I miscalled it when I was like, oh, Benson missed the cutoff guy. No, Naylor just kind of... And I was like, Naylor gave zero effort. It wasn't zero effort. It was a bad choice. He decided to deke instead of trying to cut it off. Should have cut it off. At the end of the day, it was a poor set of decisions, but it doesn't matter. That part didn't matter in the end because the Guardians offense just could not string anything together. Going through and just talking, our box score bingo of it all. Who reached base twice in this one? Oscar Gonzalez. That was it. From Saturday's game, you had Oscar Gonzalez and nobody else. I mean, Maile had a hit, Naylor had a hit, Quan had a hit. Your only walk went to Oscar Gonzalez. Oscar Gonzalez reached base 3 of the 6 times the Guardians reached base in this one. 3 of the 6 times. I mean, you're not going to be successful. Oscar Gonzalez was his 20th double. It is interesting. He's turning into this doubles king, and they're not leaving the park, but he is just doubles all the time. Benson did get an error on the throw. So if you're looking at the box score bingo, Cleveland had 6-7 opportunities. That should be about, 2 runs. They got 0. So that's even worse. The other side of things, 5 hits for Chicago. A hit batter and 3 walks plus the error. So it's 4 plus 5, 10 opportunities. So that'd be about 3 runs. So the White Sox actually underperformed their expectation as well. I have a hard time getting too upset with Bieber. 6 1/3, 1 earned run, 2 total runs, 5 hits, 3 walks, just the 4 strikeouts. This was not the same guy from his previous start where the velocity was up and he was dealing. The other thing that got me in trouble is I said that bringing in 99 was the wrong guy to bring in. And this is why I say that. And maybe it's one of those things that's better explained than trying to do a Twitter thing. I've watched a few broadcasts, and I don't typically watch the local ones, and I always notice that, 99 is a very deliberate approach, and he's got to do, 4 or 5 taps and go, so he's very easy to get a jump on. He is giving away stolen bases. There is not a catcher in the land that could prevent people taking a base. So you go back to that inning when you have a runner already on second base with, was it just 1 out at the time, I believe? Bringing in a 99 is giving that runner third base for free. So the free base, which then turns into a run scored. So that's not, 99 pitched well. 2/3 of an inning, didn't allow anything across. But I just question, and it's people are like, oh, he's been so good since he's caught up. How dare you? I'm not it's not a reflection on him. It's a reflection that, like, in that situation, you might be better off going to Trevor Stephan, who has also been nails this year. I saw a thing about, like, top relievers in baseball with FIPS under 2, and it's like Clase and Trevor Stephan of the qualifying ones. Like, Trevor Stephan's been really, really good. I just think 99 is best used starting off an inning. You don't want to bring him in with a runner already on because he can't hold runners. It's free bases. So that was that statement. Those two statements, people got really mad at me. So just wanted to fully explain them here. And I don't think either one was a mea culpa, and the other one is just there's the nuance to it. And Yale got the ERA under 3, continues to be great. Then Eli Morgan, it was nice to see him come in and not put anyone on. Because again, we talked about the numbers show a guy who's been more unlucky than bad. He's been bad, but he's been unlucky after being, extremely. He's gone from one end of luck to the other, but his confidence seems shook. So it was nice to see him have that inning on that side of things. Who are the 3 stars in this one? Oscar Gonzalez and Shane Bieber, I think, are pretty easy. When you go 6 1/3 and give up 1 earned, I thought it was questionable, honestly, to send him out there in the 7th. He hadn't been dominant enough. Let's see, how many pitches did he end up with in this one? He was at 99, so it wasn't a high pitch count, but have him just go back out there. I was like, we'll see how this goes. Didn't go well for Bieber in the 7th, but, overall, a nice performance by him. And then it's kind of hard. It's like, who else do you really go out and give something to? Like, Benson, who, rough day for him between getting called on the error that really wasn't his fault, and then another 0 for 3 day. He's now down to a 120 batting average. Throughout this lineup, like I said, there wasn't even someone who's walking to reach base twice. I think I'm going to give it to Eli Morgan. Because of those 3 relievers, he's the only one who recorded a strikeout. They all pitched clean innings, so we're going to give it to Morgan because it's been a while, and it's been a rough time for Morgan. So that's game 1. Technically, this is Saturday's game. We're starting with the one that was a little more controversial, and we want to build to better. But yeah, it was a rough loss because your starter pitched well. The offense was just terrible. And again, if you listen to Friday's show, I was like, this is probably the one that they're going to lose that they shouldn't lose. It is a bad matchup. In the 9th, you did get the Naylor single, and then you had a guy on base. Being down 2, it never felt like, I know they went and got Liam Hendricks because Cueto was at like 110 some pitches, but it never felt like they were really in this one after that second run got across. We're going to take our first break, come back, and talk about the winning game, the fun game in this, what turned into a 2-game series. Our sponsor today is one of our oldest. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check on all of your betting needs. Find all of your favorite sports events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Sorry, I feel like if you're watching this, you're going to see me like smushing around my nose like I'm on something. Just the cat. Why don't you jump in my lap all the time? So more of that than anything else. But I apologize to the visual watchers. I'm over here like I'm sure that's what everyone wants, is a lot of sniffing on a podcast. So sorry. What am I doing? Game 1. This is the fun one. The Guardians come back, get 1 in the 6th, 4 in the 7th. They were down 2-0 because they started off with the 2 in the first off McKenzie. But at the end of the day, what a performance. 7 innings. So do the math. 21 total outs, 14 strikeouts. Wow. That's a lot of strikeouts. We don't see a lot of 14ers. Just 6 hits, no walks. Those 2 earned runs in the first, and then he shut it down. Trevor Stephan got the hold in the 8th, down to 2.49 ERA. Manuel Clase got another save. That is 28th on the year, a 1.22 ERA. I believe that is good. Who reached base multiple times in this one? Well, it's going to take me a second. Ahmed Rosario, Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, Andres Jimenez, and then I believe that's it. I should check the hit batters because I always forget about those. So you had Oscar Gonzalez who got intentional. That's right. Oscar Gonzalez reached base twice. How did I forget about the intentional walk? So I don't like intentional walks to begin with. And when you have 2 strikes on a guy, intentionally walking Oscar Gonzalez, like that double steal ended up being incredibly valuable because it allows them to go ahead and be like, okay, first base is open. Let's walk this guy and go get the lefty behind him. And Nolan is no doubt. It is kind of funny because, like, I get it. Like, Nolan Jones is really hot when he got called up, and he has scuffled a bit more. But, he's still at 244, 681. That's certainly better than Will Benson's 120 on the other side of things. So it's interesting what we fret about. But, yeah, it was just a strong overall performance. Maley has had to pick up because of Hedges' injury, and the catchers combined to reach base twice in this one. 10th double by Maley. Kwan's 3rd triple. Jose Ramirez with home run number 23. Box score bingo of it all. 9 hits for Cleveland, 4 walks, the intentional walk, and the 1-hit batter. So that's 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 9, 15 opportunities. They should have 5 runs. Hey, for once it exactly matched up. Other side, 7 hits, 0 walks, 1-hit batter, I want to say, on their side. So it gives them 8 opportunities. 8 opportunities should yield about 2 to 3 runs. Hey, they got 2. It all matches up. 3 stars in this one. Triston McKenzie. I don't think is there any debate with that one in this one? In terms of Jose Ramirez, to me, the home run, reach base 3 times, that all comes together to be one of your more effective guys. I was also trying to think. So part of me wants to say Naylor because he reached base 3 times as well in this game. So, there's and he stole a base. So yeah, Naylor, 3rd star of this one. It was an odd one to watch. Like, going back to that 7th inning where they get the triple, the single, walk, single, then the intentional walk. And hey, Owen Miller flied out, so it actually worked out. But then the funny thing with all of this, so Diekman, who's a lefty, is there. So after the walk, Nolan Miller is up. They do a pitching change to bring in the right-hander, which they then bring in Owen Miller, which is interesting because, it didn't work. Owen Miller flied out, but Jimmy Lambert's a righty. And as we know, Owen Miller has the reverse platoon split, so he actually hits better against righties. So you take out the lefty and bring in a righty. This was actually the right call. So I don't have necessarily an issue. It is a little weird to look at, but it worked out kind of. But yeah, it's it's hard to not question that decision by Tony La Russa in this one. So let's now pivot. And that game took forever. It was 9 o'clock start time, and then the field didn't drain. And there's a lot of theories. I'm not getting into it on what's going on why the field didn't drain. But then I don't think I've ever had a rain. And can anyone recall this many weather-related issues in a season? It feels like in normally 3 years to get to this many weather-related issues. I remember the year that they got snowed out and had to play in Milwaukee. That season had less weather-related issues. This season's been crazy. If you ever want to really go to bat and debate anyone who's one side of climate change to the other, this Guardian season is a pretty good case, as well as 120-year-old ships appearing in rivers everywhere. But it's been crazy. The weather just never relented, and it is a doubleheader is hard, and these things keep. Now this might be the first time it paid off because now they don't have to face Dylan Cease. So if you want to be a conspiracy theorist, hey, bad weather, bad drainage, we don't have to face Cease. Maybe when we reschedule this, if we reschedule this, we'll be able to avoid him altogether. They now have double break here. It's they have Thursday off, they have Monday off, they had Sunday off. They should be pretty well rested for this 2-game series in San Diego. We'll do a preview tomorrow because I don't anticipate there being much to talk about in terms of like current news on tomorrow's show. There's always things to talk about. Don't worry about it. I got you covered. And then the Mariners, who we haven't talked about in a while. And then another Monday off day, and the Orioles. So this should be a well-rested team as they try to hold on the division lead. Now, Texas helped us out. So the Cleveland Guardians' lead in the division is 1.5 games because the Rangers took 2 out of 3 from the Twins. So they actually gained space in the division with this over the Twins. Chicago, same spot they were before it started. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then, so Nolan Jones got sent down. And again, I know he's been scuffling, but he's not playing a lot. And here's the thing with Nolan Jones. He played hurt a good chunk of 21. He had a delayed start to this year because of an injury. And then he came up and was great, and then he stopped getting regular bats. And then there's the whole weirdness, honestly, about calling up Will Benson, when they called up Will Benson and let go of Alex Call. Because there was not really a have to there, right? There was not a, he was need to be activated from this list or that list. There wasn't a have to reason to call him up. And then you had 2 left-handed bats. And has Benson played any first base? There was some talk about, like, very little. There was some talk, like, first night he was going to play first base. And then since then he's been not playing much. And for a guy like Jones, who was hurt and hurt again, and had shown some real growth in terms of going to the opposite field and being more patient as a hitter, he needs reps. So sending him down is, I don't have an issue with that. I think, and again, if you follow me on Twitter at JeffMLBDraft, you'll see I was calling for it. I was saying that, like, it'd be one thing if we felt like the minor league development was so and he was going to get better coaching. But I think the one thing we've seen through the course of this year is minor league development is quite good. It is a top-to-bottom approach in terms of development. So go down, get reps, get some live game action. It's going to benefit him long-term. Richie Palacios, it's a little bit weird. Like, okay, I'm going to do a screen share for you people who are watching on YouTube. Let me do the display capture. Let me know if I do this correctly, because, like, I'm still learning as I go. So that's your homework, YouTube people. It does this show. So this is AAA International League stats. And this is, performance based on runs created plus 100 plate appearances. So you can see, looking at this list, like Benson 1, Jones 2, Alex Call 3. What is interesting, Bo Naylor and then Richie Palacios, they're at 5. Will Brennan is there at 6. Now, we all get excited about Brennan, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone, as we talk about, he's it should be considered a top 10 prospect and this or that. And I kind of look at Brennan's numbers and I'm like, how much is he benefiting from the Quan effect? Because he may be getting a little overhyped. Because look at those numbers. Now, here's the difference between Palacios and Brennan. About 10 months in age, and Brennan has almost 90 more games played in the minors. And on top of 90 more games, he also has like 400 more plate appearances because of Palacios' injury. And Palacios might be the better athlete as well. Is the gap between these players really that high? Palacios walks more, he does strike out more. He's got more power. Brennan plays, center field. Palacios is more left, but I would love to see him get some reps at second. Are these guys really separated by the amount where, like, when I was talking about my initial prospect lists, Palacios is still a prospect. He is not someone who's graduated. Is it really worth, like, 20 spots of difference between these two? And as I look at him, like, again, for where they are, yeah, Palacios is 10 months older, but Brennan has actually had significantly more reps. That might matter. That's something that stands out. And I think there's this tendency with, Gonzalez and Palacios and Benson and Brennan and George Valera, who's, on this roster, didn't qualify for this list, and now who's called. There've been so many guys called up this year. Palacios is kind of lost in the shuffle. He's a better prospect than he gets credit for, I think, right now. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if, he ends up being an MLB starter. Because he has good athletic tools. He has good contact rates. He's got sneaky power, good athlete, and he walks at a decent amount as well. He does a lot of things well enough to be a potential starter. Like I said, again, look at that line. His performance in AAA is not far from Bo Naylor's. Now, again, they let Alex Call go, and he's up there to 146. But he is the one, you look at those age groups, like significant age difference between everyone else on this list. Palacios is, yes, he is older than pretty much all the other guys, but it is relative. And it is, again, it's, played at Townsend, not a huge program, not a program known for its major league production, and he gets hurt, and didn't get a chance to play. So I just think it is definitely, worth checking out. And my initial feel was, he's probably going to ride the bench, be more of the end of the, so maybe Brennan plays like 3 times a week, he plays 1. I don't know. You can make a case that Palacios is a better prospect than Brennan, than Benson. I think I said the wrong names, too many B's. But it'll be interesting to see how they play and use him, how this is going to set up. I think I have been guilty of underrating Palacios right now. Let's take our break, come back, and talk about some of these minor league roster moves. Some names, some guys who are big names leaving the organization. Okay, so we had a series of. It's interesting. So let's go through this. All these players were released. We did have Adam Talalak was activated. Not activated. They added someone from this draft class. First player from the draft class, Adam Talalak, who was a day 3 lefty, who was the guy who I talked about. He missed a ton of bats, but had command issues as a left-hander. And he's pitching in Arizona, where, again, as a college guy, you expect it to go well. 5 hits, 7 runs, 6 earned, a walk, no outs. One of the worst debuts ever. Let's hope that turns around for him. We should also talk about, before we get into this, Rocchio up to AAA. I think he's the shortstop of the future. Again, I've talked about, and there's a lot of things there that I think Jimenez is probably a better defender than Rocchio at short, but I don't think it's a huge deal either way. And then because of that, Angel Martinez got promoted to AA, and I think he was in a 21-game reaching base streak. Really good prospect, really someone you need to know if you have not been paying attention to the minors. So let's get into the players that were released, and then tomorrow's show I'm going to get into a little bit more. So we have so much minor league stuff. Gavin Williams had a no-hitter into the 6th inning the other day. Cody Morris has continued to miss an absolute ridiculous amount of bats. There's a lot of positives. We'll talk about those tomorrow on the show. So let's get into players that we didn't get a chance to know as well. I've done that multiple times. Landy Pena, second baseman, third baseman, shortstop. He was a 27th round pick in 2019. Hadn't played in the minors this year. Very limited reps, about 34 games in 2019 and 2021. 2020 he played in a foreign league. 149 batting average, 281 on base, 213 slugging, 494 OPS. He came from Leadership Christian Academy in Puerto Rico. Wish him well. The performance just wasn't there, and he was just kind of holding a spot. And again, you can only have 180 players on your roster. So as guys get hurt in the minors, that I believe you have the back and forth, if you need to activate some guys. Now, this goes beyond just activating. They are starting to cut guys off the roster. I don't know if we'll see more debuts. I assume, we got Talak out there. Might be some more guys in the minors, because at the end of the year, here's the thing. You can go to 190 in the offseason as long as 10 of those guys didn't play this year. So you can go through and circle every college pitcher, because those guys, well, I guess not all of them. Normally, you could do it, but the only one who's debuted so far is a college pitcher. 10 guys from this draft class, though, are not going to play in the minors. It means they need to clear 11 other spots. So that's part of this. Jean Vergara from Venezuela, 22-year-old who had never gotten out of Arizona. A pitcher. He did have, didn't have any at-bats. It's always weird when they have registered batting but no data. Listen, he didn't miss bats. The walk rate wasn't bad in the minors, 3.8, but only 5.7 in terms of strikeouts and a 10 hit per 9. So he didn't miss enough bats. And it kind of gets down to that. And he was older for the level and was not necessarily producing. I might have said Venezuela, from Colombia, just in case I messed that up. We'll save the bigger names for last. Manuel Alvarez, also let go. Another international signing. He had gotten up to Columbus this year. He pitched across 3 levels. Had been an A and A ball back in 2019. I'm sorry, this year was just AA. Last year he got up to AAA. 26 years of age. Strikeouts per 9 over his minor league career were over 10. Problem was his walks per 9 were over 7. And we've kind of talked about the Guardians do a nice job of finding more, but they don't always do the best job about refining it. So Manuel Alvarez they have so much pitching in system. He was mostly working out of the pen as another relief arm, but at his age, at 26, that is minor league old. It's the only place where 26 is old, but it is minor league old. He'd be 27 in September, so it is. Shares a birthday with my daughter. It was just a matter of age, time, and level, and them, moving through. Brian Eichhorn is second most interesting guy for me. 2018, a while ago, obviously, relative to the draft, 25-year-old kid, just turned 25, from Georgia Southern, a 9th round pick, and you're like, oh, that's the senior sign range. He was not. He was not a senior sign. They gave him like $150,000, and yes, and say what you want to say, but $150,000 is like 3 years of work for me as a teacher. So it's pretty good living if you can get it. In 2018, after they drafted him, he didn't pitch in the minors because they often don't have college guys pitch. 2019, gets in 14 games, only 52 innings. 2020 happens, gets wiped out. 2021, I think it was Tommy John surgery. It was major surgery. Missed the entire year. This year, he had been in the rookie ball A and high A, and had only gotten about 19 innings in 14 games, mostly working as a reliever. And the numbers actually weren't bad. Strikeout per 9, 11.6. Walks per 9, 3.7. There just must not have been enough there. He wasn't getting a ton of reps, but performance was okay at those spots. I don't know entirely what's going on behind the scenes. But again, as a 24-year-old kid who's never pitched above high A, that is kind of worrying. But part of it's health and COVID. He is just... It's unfortunate. Like, he is a guy who totally got squeezed because of the COVID situation. But, I mean, again, he wasn't just a senior sign. I would love to see him pick up somewhere, but that one was an interesting one. And then the big name, Quentin Holmes. This was not unsurprising. The former second-round pick, who was their highest draft pick in the 2017 draft, that was, the Edwin Encarnacion draft, where they gave up their first rounder to sign him. I wanted Trevor Stephan with that pick, very much. That's the guy I was all about for that pick. Quentin Holmes, though, afterwards, is like, of course, he's 17 on draft day, left-handed bat, cold weather, tools for days, and this is when they drafted a whole series of outfielders with their top overall pick. Tyler Naquin, Bradley Zimmer, Clint Frazier. It was just a whole series, and saw how most of those worked out. But the problem for him is just right from the drop, he couldn't hit. I mean, he's going to end with 243 games in the minors, 931 plate appearances, 535 OPS, 281 slugging, 254 on base, and 190 batting average. His best season, like last year, he came out looking like he might be a little bit better, but he still ended at 226, 284, 302, 586. They're just 80 grade speed. One of the fastest guys in the minors, but he just could not hit. He got up to Double-A this year for about 11 games. He was mostly serving in a backup role, and they just had so many outfielders that they viewed it as time to move on. He's 23 years of age, 2017 draft. So he's been around for a little bit in terms of this organization. He would have been at the end of next season a minor league free agent. I'll be curious if someone else goes. Like, he was very highly thought of, potential first rounder at points out of high school. Didn't have the greatest spring, so it kind of explains why he fell a bit. But yeah, when I saw that he was let go, it's like, whoa, that's kind of interesting, just because you don't see a lot of guys who were teams, and yes, it was a late second round pick, but still, I mean, I believe he was taken. Shouldn't have closed this. I'm going to do a quick pause and check on something before I say something incorrect. I'll say what I was going to say no matter what.